Hey everyone, this video is about Bitcoin versus Ripple slash XRP. XRP is a sort of a crypto token that's issued by Ripple Labs. So I posted on Facebook sometime in the last few days that when the tide comes in, which is Bitcoin, that the trash floats to the top, which is Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and I threw in there XRP, Ripple slash XRP, and someone commented that, hey, wait a second, that's not trash, it has a real world use case. I'm going to address what if it is a scam and then what if it isn't a scam. So, and for anybody who is a fan of Ripple or XRP, I would welcome you to please do a Facebook Live video, send me the link, or do a long voice note on Facebook Messenger and send it my way. Or if you've got some links you can send me, that would be helpful. I would love to hear them. So this video is my opinion, but it's also an open invitation for anyone who wants to defend Ripple and XRP to please send me stuff that attempts to prove me wrong, because I love reading stuff that attempts to prove me wrong. So Ripple and XRP, what is it? Well, it's a crypto token that's intended to compete with the SWIFT and Fedwire banking networks for cross-border payments. Now, the first red flag is the founding team behind it were behind Mt. Gox before they sold it. Mt. Gox was the cryptocurrency exchange that blew up in 2014 and lost like 850,000 Bitcoin. Like, it was a huge deal. Anyway, well, some of the same key figures, I believe, are the same key figures in Ripple slash XRP. And rather than the fair distribution network that Bitcoin has, where every single Bitcoin has to be mined by the use of real world electricity and computing power, Ripple is set up where there's 100 billion of them. And I think there's something like 57 billion in circulation, and they have another like 43 billion in escrow and all this sort of stuff. But it's super murky. So the first question is, well, how much are in circulation and as compared to how much are not in circulation? So with Bitcoin, 94% of all the Bitcoin that will ever be, it might be close to 95% right now, but I'll say 94% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist have already been mined. They are already in circulation, and the remainder will roll out between now and 2140, which is 116 years. So we know with Bitcoin at every single point in time exactly how much Bitcoin there is right now, exactly how more Bitcoin will be released into the marketplace, and every single Bitcoin is backed by an amount of computational computing power and electricity in the ballpark of the value of the Bitcoin at the time it was mined. That is the what's called irrefutable costliness or unforgeable costliness, meaning you know that every Bitcoin is backed by electricity and computing power. That is not the same with Ripple and XRP. A huge amount of it is stored in escrow, and the escrow was supposed to be released by 2025, but then they bumped it to 2027, and basically it's super murky on when does this Ripple get dumped in the market, and who owns what, and how, and where, and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, it's just all the alarm bells of a massive mega scam go off in my mind, similar to Terra Luna, which blew up last year and wiped out $60 billion. And, you know, there's been a bunch of them, a bunch of scams. Same with FTX, etc. So it smells like, looks like, and feels like something that doesn't feel right to me. So that's the first big red flag, is that a bunch of the Ripple is owned by Ripple Labs. A bunch more of the Ripple, the XRP token is controlled by Ripple Labs, and the monetary policy, if there even was such a thing with regard to Ripple, is basically trust me, bro. And the problem is, trust me, bro, is a horrible monetary policy when you just have no idea how much XRP is going to be in circulation, how it's going to end up in circulation, and basically how your XRP is going to get diluted by all the other XRP. And I just think that, one of the original founders already dumped all of his XRP and walked away. It's just, the whole thing's a mess. Okay, so it looks like, smells like, feels like a scam coin that's going to end up in a rug pull, and a rug pull is basically when the whole thing collapses and the original founding team who reserved a bunch of the Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, but XRP for themselves, basically walks away rich and you get screwed. So it looks like, feels like, and all of those things. But again, if you have evidence to the contrary, please send it my way. But, okay, so let's assume it's not a scam. Let's assume that the people who are in favor of XRP actually, that it's got a legitimate use value. Okay, even if it does, the question is, why on earth would you invest in it? And here's the logic. This is a problem that is shared by every utility token, which is a utility token, unlike Bitcoin, which stores value, which means as it gets more expensive, it actually does its job better. Unlike Bitcoin, which gets better at doing its job the more expensive it gets, and therefore there's an incentive for the price to rise, a utility token is the opposite. There's an incentive for the price to go down or for people to switch to a different technology. So there's no benefit with a utility token of the token itself being expensive. And as the token gets more expensive, people move to other platforms because that is the economic incentive. So for example, everybody thought Ethereum was the next big thing. And I dumped all the Ethereum I owned back in 2021, back in either March or April of 2021. So 3.5 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I sold what little Ethereum I had because I came to the same conclusion 3.5 years ago. So this is the conclusion I came to 3.5 years ago that apparently other people have still not come to, which is wait. If Ethereum becomes successful, which it started to be, then Ethereum will get more expensive, which happened, at which point it will not be affordable to transact on the Ethereum network, which happened, at which point people will switch to another platform, which happened, at which point the price of Ethereum as compared to Bitcoin will be way lower, which also happened. Okay, so all of that happened, and people switched over to Solana, mostly Solana and Tron and Algorand and a bunch of other platforms. Okay, so I just don't understand why the same would not happen in the case of XRP. There's no benefit to the token as a utility token being expensive. In fact, there's a massive disincentive for it to be expensive, which means if the price of the token is going up, I don't think it's going up because the network is becoming more useful. I think it's going up because people are speculating on it because they don't understand, which is the same reason that the price of Shiba Inu goes up, or the price of Dogecoin goes up, or the price of Floki goes up, or the price of Dog with Hat goes up. They're all joke tokens, and even the utility tokens, again, if they have value, people will switch. So if whale oil becomes too expensive, people will switch to kerosene, which they did. If kerosene becomes too expensive, they'll switch to electricity, which they did. If generating electricity expensive ways becomes more, too costly, they'll find less expensive ways. So the same is true with XRP. I don't understand what benefit the expense of the token is or why people would not switch. So if the token goes up in value, it means it is more costly to use the network. And if it's more costly to use the network, why would you not switch to a less expensive network? So let's try to think of some real world examples. What if using Google required a Google token? And everybody started basically, buying Google tokens because they're like, look, in the future, everybody's going to be using Google with a Google token. Well, the short take is, no, they're not. They're going to switch to a search engine that's free. So if Alta Vista or Ask Jeeves or Yahoo or Google had become more expensive to use with time, people would have switched to a different search engine. The same with social media. If each social media required a token to use and that token became more and more expensive over time, people would not use it anymore. Same with Chuck E. Cheese and with a arcade. If somebody said, hey, let's start buying up arcade tokens because the tokens are getting more expensive by the day, and we're positive everybody's going to play video games at the arcade for $100, per race. The answer is no, they're not. They're going to go to a different arcade. There's no benefit to the token being expensive other than as an incentive for people to switch to a less costly network. So that is my prediction of what will happen with XRP. And I just have never met anybody who has an answer to that question. I have posed that question to people who own Ethereum as an investment. I've posed that question to people who own Solana as an investment. And I've posed that question to people who own XRP from Ripple Labs as an investment. And I've said, well, look, I get it. If you plan to use their network, use the utility of their network, then I can see why you would own the token to use the utility. But none of these people are planning to use the utility of the network. They're all planning on the price going up with the belief that someone else somewhere will use the utility of the network. Now, the beauty of Bitcoin is that when you own Bitcoin, you own Bitcoin. Even if you own a Bitcoin ETF, you are leveraging the store of value properties of Bitcoin because every single share of a Bitcoin ETF represents a fractional piece of a Bitcoin. like 1-for-1, 100%. So anytime you own any form of Bitcoin, whether it's a Bitcoin ETF or the real thing in the palm of your hands in a BitKey storage device, you are using the store of value properties of Bitcoin. But XRP and Solana and Ethereum are not intended to be a store of value technology. They are a utility platform technology, which means they're not supposed to store value, which means buying their token as a way, as an investment, just makes no sense to me. And again, unless you intend to use their token for whatever its intended purpose was. And I can promise you, none of the people I know who own XRP are planning to do cross-border remittances and need the XRP token to do that. That is not why they own it. They own it as an investment. So that would be the question I would present to anyone, including anyone watching this video, who owns XRP or Solana or Ethereum, which is, why would you own that as an investment if the thesis of the investment gets worse the more popular it gets? If the token price goes up, the cost to transact on that network goes up, and the incentive to switch to a different network goes up, thereby making your investment go down. It's a classic case of something that, there's certain assets that get better at doing their job the higher their cost. So, for example, luxury goods. The more expensive a Rolex is, the better it communicates to the world that you're rich, which I don't wear a Rolex and I never will. But the point is, cost is an asset. But for the vast majority, and same with Bitcoin, the more expensive Bitcoin is, the better it stores value, and therefore more people adopt it, and therefore it goes up in value. It gets better with price. Utility tokens do not work that way. They get worse with price, and the incentive to switch to a different network goes up. And again, I just don't know why these networks wouldn't eventually trend towards zero, because the actual cost to run these networks is almost zero. And so why would the utility token that runs the network increase in value? So if anybody has a question, has an answer to that question, let me know. If you have articles I need to read, let me know. If you have specific podcast episodes that answer that question, please send them to me, because nobody seems to have those things, at least nobody I've been able to talk to or find. And I would love to know someone, again, who owns XRP or Solana or Ethereum. I would love to know what your investment thesis is and why you think the token will become more, why you think people will not just switch to a different platform as the token gets more expensive, because these are not sticky platforms. It's not like once you're invested in one platform, you can't, all of these platforms you can just switch. There's not a high switching cost as compared to Bitcoin, which there's a very high switching cost, because nothing, replicating Bitcoin's security model and all that is basically completely impossible. Replicating a token like Solana or Ethereum or XRP is just not hard. There's like a bunch of them. Those are the most common recent ones, but there's a bunch of other ones. There's Tron. There's just a bunch of them. So I just don't understand the investment thesis. And I get the impression when I talk to people who own those assets that they don't seem to have I have not heard any of them articulate a coherent investment thesis for why they own the asset and why it will increase in value, other than just pure speculation. And heck, if you're speculating, well, okay, but I would never speculate. Speculating is a bad investment approach. The correct investment approach is to come up with a deep conviction on a technology or a value proposition, thoroughly research that, build a deep conviction in that value proposition or that thesis, and then invest accordingly, which is what I do, which is why I own 100% Bitcoin, and I do not own any other crypto or any other smart contract platform or any of these other things, because I don't have any conviction that any of those are a good investment for all the reasons I've said. So if you do have a conviction, I would love to hear it. Send it my way. I like to think I'm open-minded, and I will certainly read or listen to any resources you send my way that would attempt to disprove my thesis that you should invest exclusively in Bitcoin and not in Ripple/XRP or in Solana or in Ethereum or any of those other coins. Hope it helps. Send me resources if you disagree. I promise to read or listen to any resources you send me that disagree with my point of view, and I would be honored to do that. Thanks.